Hello, I'm Nobby. Welcome to my workshop. Moving on with the build of the Ellie engine. I've already made all the parts in previous episodes for the boiler, so all the parts are completed now for the boiler. So the next stage there will be silver soldering all of those parts together. There are quite a lot of other complicated parts to make. Some of these will need to be silver soldered as well, but I had a look through the Ellie book at the plans, and for most of those I actually haven't got the materials to make them as yet, so I thought I'd just get on with something else. Now the floor of the engine is going to need a lot of holes cutting in it. Then you see I've made a start on it. There are two if you like, sort of square holes that need cutting in this. One here. This is where the burner comes up from the bottom of the engine below the boiler, so the boiler will be mounted across here, and another hole cutting here, and this is the space where the engine, if you like, the wobbler engine, will go down through here. The wobbler engine will sit above, but part of the wobbler engine will go down with the gears that will connect it to the axles of the wheels. I suppose there are lots of different ways that you could cut these holes. So you could sort of gang drill all the way around and knock that part out and file it, or it could be put on the milling machine and that could be milled out. But what I opted to do in the end is what I've done here. I've not bothered to film any of this because, quite frankly, it's boring. How I did this one was the same as this hole here. I just drilled a hole in each corner, and then I'm cutting around to those holes, and then, as I've done here, file it to shape. Now, to cut sort of inside here, it is, with a saw, it is not an easy thing to do, but I'm lucky in that I've got, well, not a saw like this, but a blade like this. If you can see the blade, it's a round blade with sort of a cutting edge all the way round. And when I bought this with a frame as well, it must have been, I'm guessing, over 40 years ago, long before I ever was doing any amateur engineering. But I was making something out of aluminium where I needed an accurate square hole cut in that as well. And these were sort of readily available almost anywhere. I think I bought this at an exhibition somewhere. You got the frame and a pack of these blades, and you see they fit in. They've on the ends they've got little like a little ball on each end. The frame, I don't know where that went. That disappeared years ago, and I was left with literally one blade only. I don't know where all the other ones went, but I had, for the old hacksaw I've got here, I made these little adapters at the end so the little ball would go inside here, and then it could be stretched into position. And I've used that. Obviously, when you drill the holes, obviously the hole's got to be big enough for the little ball part of the blade to go through. I've tried to find more blades. I did come across some of these on eBay once, but the seller wanted a huge amount of money for them. You know, and I think when I had the original frame and blades, the blades would have been in those days pennies to buy. And if I'd only known about that, obviously I would have bought loads and loads of them and made sure I kept hold of them. But it was only by chance that I actually found this blade among a lot of old tools I've got. So that's done the job. And when if this ever breaks, it's obviously now could not really be replaced, unless anyone out there knows where there's a an inexpensive source of these blades. The nearest I've ever got to this was another saw that I bought, which I'm going to show you. Which is this one. I think it has a similar type of blade. I have cut aluminium with this, but not steel, so I don't know how well this would cope with cutting this material. But with this particular one, the problem is that the blade is attached to these little fittings on the end, and you'd have to cut a huge hole in a piece of metal to get that blade through. If you were cutting from the edge of a piece of material, you know, so cutting in that way, it wouldn't be a problem. I mean, this is sold as a coping saw. Coping saws generally have a flat blade, and they're mostly used for fretwork on wood. But this was a beautiful thing I came across. It's made in Japan, and it's called a freeway coping saw. It was, you know, a fairly expensive item, but I decided to buy myself one of these, and as I say, when I have used this on aluminium, and it survived. When you buy this, you get a spare blade with it as well. This is the original blade, and usually the blades are actually made in America. So I don't know what the sort of the connection is there, you know, whether these were originally sold in America and they had the frames made in Japan, or the other way around. I don't really know, but that's, you know, the nearest I've got to the saw that I've got here. Nice really, because this is actually a much thinner blade, but you know, that will obviously have sort of uses in the future. So anyway, I'm going to sort of carry on with this. I've already cut 3 sides out. I've just got to cut across here and then carefully file around it as near as I can get to the line as possible. It's I want to get it as close to the line as I can, although I'm guessing it's not a critical thing, because there's nothing being fitted into this shape anyway. It's only allowing a clearance for things to pass through the holes. So I thought I'd just show you what I'm doing next, although I'm not actually showing me doing it. What I've also got to do is drill a series of holes. I don't know if you can see, there are a little series of pop marks on here on both sides, and that needs a series of, I think they're 10mm holes to drill all the way around, so that I guess is allowing for air to come up from underneath the engine to help the flame onto the boiler. So I thought I'd just show you that, you know, what I'm up to at the moment, and obviously bring you back for more things. I think, you know, the machining side of things might be more interesting than really what I'm doing here. This is a lot of old-fashioned filing, basically, which I quite enjoy doing actually. But anyway, I'll bring you back when there's something, you know, a bit more interesting to share with you. thought I'd just show you a bit of the the sawing action there. It's fairly quick, and probably quicker to do it this way than any of the other methods actually, because filing again was not too bad. Took a while, but not an incredibly slow process. So there we are. I thought, why should I have to suffer cutting this all on my own without you watching me as well? Bring you back. I thought I'd show me doing a little bit of primitive filing. I've already filed these bits out, but I need to go over it with a very fine file afterwards, just to sort of clean it up. And of course behind here there's a burr which needs to be taken off. And the problem that you've got with the piece of metal here sticking up out of the vise so high, I've got it down here, the bit I'm filing as close to the jaws as I can get it, but I couldn't do that with all the other edges. This obviously makes quite a bad ringing sound, so what I've discovered, if you put all these clamps on the top, that sort of helps to deaden the ringing sound a bit. So whether everyone sort of knows to do that or not, I don't know, but anyway, using a fairly broad 1 inch file, I think, to just sort of file as much of this out as possible. And I'm using a safety file, which obviously you all know about. Safety files have one ground edge and one cutting edge, so make sure you've got that edge up against parts that you've already done. I've discovered it's rather difficult to find decent files, and even files that have safety edges on them now. And if you go to sort of what the Americans call box stores, I don't think you'd ever find files like this. And when I bought I think 2 of these at a model engineering exhibition I went to, so it's sort of useful to have that. But most of the other files I've got haven't got that on them. I know that a lot of people grind one edge down on their files to give you a safety edge, but the problem is with a lot of files like this one, they're not sort of square all the way down. They do have a sort of if you like, a square bit back here about 2/3 at the end, so I guess that could be, you could grind that off. I guess I've never tried to do that, but anyway, see, I'll just show you a little bit of this filing action. It's incredibly boring. Just making a few strokes and then checking where I'm against the line, so that I don't overdo it. Well, as I mentioned, it's not in this particular instance a critical thing anyway, because I'm not filing this so that anything is going to fit exactly into this hole anyway. You can hear by the sound this is a fairly rough file, but at least it's moving quite a lot of material straight away. And there's a lot of people on YouTube that show things about filing, and obviously they moan at people that drag files back, because obviously a file does only cut in one direction, of course. And I already knew that from my school days in the metalwork class, where you seem to spend an awful lot of time filing bits of metal. I think it's to sort of teach you some discipline. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with this because it's probably too noisy to send you to sleep anyway, but I'll bring you back and show you the end result of this. Well, that's our bit of filing completed now. I've got the 2 holes cut out in this now, and I've filed round and gone round with a much finer file and a bit of emery paper as well, just to make sure there's no sharp edges that are going to cut me on this. And as I mentioned, what I'll probably do next is drill all these little holes in here. There's going to be masses of other holes to drill in this. There'll be sort of holes on each side of this slot, which will take the standoffs for the boiler brackets, but I'm not going to do those holes just yet. I mean, the correct hole positions are that doesn't help, does it? are actually shown on the plans, but the thing is, if when the boiler brackets are soldered onto the boiler, if that is not absolutely perfect, then nothing's going to line up. So I think the safest thing to do is when the boiler's all been soldered up, I can lay the boiler brackets directly onto the top, onto the floor part here, and then mark out where the holes need to be. And I'm going to do that for all the other various holes. There'll be holes either side here which will take part of the wobbler engine as well, but again I'll do the same thing so that I can try and keep everything as accurate as I possibly can. So that's it for the moment, and I'll bring you back perhaps to show you a little bit more. However, the next procedure is, sorry, not the camera then, is drilling all of these holes on either side of the cutout here. There's 18 holes to drill here, 8mm in diameter, and I'd previously marked out all the positions for these. I've mounted the plate directly onto the mill table and put a piece of MDF wood underneath, not only to support it but to save me obviously drilling into the table itself. I've lined up this hole with a pointer, and I'm going to use a spot drill just to start off here. They need to be sort of reasonably accurate in the way they're laid out and drilled, although at the end of the day, when the engine is assembled, over the top of this will be the boiler, and on each side of that is like a boiler shroud, so you won't actually see any of these holes. But obviously, you want to make it all look as neat as you possibly can. I've already drilled in this row 3 holes. There's one more hole to drill here, and then a series here, and here. So I'll just drill one hole only on camera, because everything is just a repeat of what I've already done. So I'm going to spot drill it, and then drill in with a 4.5mm drill, and then the 8mm drill. For the 8mm drill, I've got a stub drill which I'm using because it's handy to have all the drills sort of similar size. If I was using a conventional 8mm drill, it's going to be sort of twice as long, and then I've got to rack the head of the mill right up to get that drill in. So this is going to sort of make life hopefully a little bit easier for me. Just make sure I've got that spot drill in nice and tight in there. We'll put a little bit of cutting fluid on that, and let's go ahead with it. And replace it with the 4.5mm. And make sure that in nice and tight. There we go. pretty obvious that it's not going to be a very quick job to do. It's going to take ages to do it, but I think once all this is set up, you know, I can keep coming back to it if I want to. So we'll get the 8mm drill in. Sorry, my hand's probably right in front of the camera at the moment. I'm not sure this is in. Nice and tight. It's quite noisy because there's obviously you know, I've got the plate clamped down with 3 clamps here, clamp them down not nice and tight, but obviously it does make a bit of a cluttering noise while it's drilling. So obviously, as soon as you see bits of wood coming up, well, it's not really wood, is it? But anyway, the hole's through. So that's it. So I've got 4 drilled now, and what I'll do when I've completed this, obviously it's going to be a huge amount of deburring to do, but you know, I'll bring you back to show you the finished job. That's the all the holes drilled. There's 18 holes in total. Did take quite a while to do it because you're going through a number of stages. Once lining the position up, then spot drilling with a slightly smaller drill, and then the 8mm drill, changing all those drills for every hole. But it's worked out okay, I think. While it was in this position, I've gone round and just roughly deburred this side of the holes. Obviously there'll be a little bit of deburring to do on the other side as well. So this can be removed now, and all the clamps. So for the time being, there's nothing more really I can do on this piece. As I mentioned, all the other holes I'll drill as I go along when I've got parts ready to go on it, so that I can make sure that all the holes are drilled in the correct position. So it's not too bad on the back. You know, it's a little bit of deburring to do, but just take my time and do that. So that's it basically for that part. So I think I'll call it on this episode basically, and bring you back for the next part. I've got to look at the plans now to see what part I could make next, while I'm sort of waiting to get moving with the silver soldering. But anyway, thanks for joining me in the workshop again, and thank you also to all the subscribers to the channel, and thank you also for the comments that you're making on what I'm doing, you know, sort of pointing out various sort of hints and tips for me, which is always very, very useful. So there we are. So that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.